Call the meeting of the Pima County Board of Supervisors of February 5th, 2013 to order. Roll call, please.
Supervisor Bronson? Present. Supervisor Carroll?
Here.
Supervisor Elias?
Present.
Supervisor Miller? Here. Chairman Valadez?
Present.
Let the record show all members are present.
Today's invocation will be offered by Pastor David Hook from Vale Christian Church and will be followed by the Pledge of Allegiance by Supervisor Carroll. Please stand.
O Almighty and merciful God, who created, redeemed, and sustains us, we give you thanks for this new and wonderful day. We thank you that even though we come together with varied agendas, needs, and goals that may bring conflict among us, we can pause and give thanks to the one who gives order to life and gives life abundantly. O Lord, you ordain leadership to bring upon order to this chaotic world. We beseech you this day to look with favor upon your servants who serve on the Board of Supervisors. Grant them wisdom that they might lead with integrity. Grant them strength to endure the demands of this county, and grant them peace to know that nothing can separate them from your love. O God, any position of leadership is often accompanied with many long and stressful days. No one feels the impact of this more than the family. So today we especially pray for the families of these leaders. May you wrap your loving arms around them and engulf them with your overflowing love, peace, and strength. O Lord, we thank you that we live in a country where our leadership is elected from the people, yet many times our leaders must negotiate agreements that don't always align perfectly with those who elected them. So this day we pray that the citizens of Pima County, we pray for them. Give them the peace to accept the proceedings that bring order to life, strength to continue to fight for those things that must change, and wisdom to know the difference. And finally, Lord, we give you thanks for the freedom that has been preserved in this nation. We give you thanks for all the brave women and men throughout our country and world who sacrifice so much to preserve and maintain this freedom. Thank you for the wide variety of skills and talents you give to each member of our sheriff department and all those who risk their lives to serve us. Give them courage and integrity as they seek to use their unique gifts in service to others. Protect them from harm and danger, even as they protect us. May you continue to bless our county, state, and this nation, that we might use this gift of freedom for the good of all. These prayers we ask in your most holy and precious name, Creator, Redeemer, and Comforter. Amen.
Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Pastor. We move on to Pause for Pause, and today we have Officer Bowden with Solovina, who is a brown, brindle, and white pit bull mix, 3 years old.
Good morning. This is Solovina. She's been with us since October and is in search of a home. She is a very sweet dog, and she was delayed a little bit getting on the adoption line. She has a mild shoulder deformity. It only just makes it look like she works out a lot, lifts weights, makes it look really tough as well, but it's nothing that's going to affect her overall health. It's just a slight visual difference. She's about 3 years old, we've estimated, and she's in great health. Otherwise, she's already been spayed. Because she's been with us for so long, her adoption fee has been reduced in half, which means the current going rate is $50 for dogs. That includes a $35 adoption fee and a $15 license. She has been reduced to $25, which is a $10 adoption fee and a $15 licensing fee. And on top of that, somebody has already paid her licensing fee. So this dog is out the door for $10. She's already been spayed, so she's ready to go. It includes the microchipping and her first round of shots for rabies. So she's ready to go out the door. She'll be available as of noon today for anybody to come and look at her. Other dogs also are available to be looked at weekdays from noon until 7 and weekends from 10 to 5. She is anxious to get into a new home. She's very sweet. She seems to be housebroken. No guarantees on that. Nothing a little training can't fix. Very happy to see other dogs, very happy with all kinds of people. She's one of our volunteers' favorites for walking, and she's ready to go. And I have to remind you all that a $10 adoption for a dog is quite a reasonable rate. Even the $50 rate is very reasonable, considering that includes their alteration, being spayed or neutered, their microchipping, and shots. It's very difficult to find a vet that will spay or neuter your animal for $50 or less. So you get a whole lot of bang for your buck. If you're not able to take in a dog at this time, or a cat, plenty of cats are available as well, but you want to help us out, you can go to our website, www.pimaanimalcare.org, and you can click on the donation box. If you don't have money to donate but have time, we welcome volunteers all the time. You get to spend a lot of time with these very, very affectionate and deserving animals that, while they're waiting for their homes, could really, really, really use a little human interaction. It's very, very exciting for them when they see the volunteers come down the aisles and they all know they're going for a walk. So if you have time to walk a dog a couple days a week or one day a week, I encourage you to do that, even if it's only one day a month. And I would like to especially thank the board this week, because every dog I've brought down here, most of the dogs I bring are the ones that have difficulty finding homes. Every dog I've brought has been adopted. Last week's dog, yeah, so let's keep going with that.
He heard. I'm not sure. He's turning red. It's possible.
So we very much appreciate the opportunity to
Now, did
bring
you
these
say
dogs.
this dog's name was Ramona?
No, this dog is
Oh,
Solovina.
I thought it was like the chairman. You get a big bang for your buck. That's what I heard.
You can change your name.
I guess
to
that
Ramona.
doesn't sound quite right, does it, Ramon? I didn't mean it like that at all. The chairman's a fine gentleman. But I'm sure that in recognition of it being, the first meeting in February, that someone's going to adopt this dog for $10. And, if it's not somebody in the room, I would just encourage everybody to go and mention it to a few people. That way, maybe somebody takes this dog home, and after 12 today, she'll be ready.
She's ready at noon today, and she can go home today.
She's
already
probably
been
ready
spayed.
right now, but
Yes.
we got to wait till noon, to go through all
Yes.
the hoops and everything.
Yes.
Well, that would be good. That would be good. Ramon, that's a nice dog. That's all I would say. Probably got. What was that? What's the origin of the dog? Was she?
Well, she's listed as a pit bull mix. She's definitely a mix. It's easy to label a lot of dogs as pit bull because their physical traits are very dominant. So
Was it turned in by an owner or something?
It was an owner surrender, so it was a circumstance where
That's
she was
good.
not getting
Yeah.
adequate care at home. So
Well,
she
that's better.
needed to be removed from her home, and they agreed
Because she
to
kind of
surrender
looks
her.
like a District 2 dog, They have a certain attitude over there in District 2 that, is a little tougher than the rest. But
Yeah, she does look very, very tough. She looks like she goes to the
I'm
gym
on
a
the
couple
chairman's
days.
case this morning, aren't I? That's not smart, is it?
As long as it gets the dog a home, I'm happy.
There you go. I love it. All right, that sounds good. Thank you.
So thank you. I appreciate your time. If you have questions, you can call our facility at 243-5969. We're happy to answer any questions you have. Thank you.
Thank you. Now, we have two changes to the addendum today. On addendum page 1, executive session regarding the proposed settlement of litigation with Robson Communities in the Arizona Court of Appeals. Staff requests the item be continued to the Board of Supervisors meeting of February 12, 2013. Page 1, item 1, County Administrator Literacy Connects. Staff requests that the item be continued to the Board of Supervisors meeting of February 19, 2013. Without objection, those two items are the only changes I have. And the chair will entertain a motion to go into executive session. We have two items. Motion and a second to go into executive session. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. All opposed, please signify by saying nay. We will return at the sound of the gavel, which should be just a few minutes. I call this meeting back to order. We had two items on the executive session calendar. Council, please.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. The first executive session item was on the regular agenda, concerns a request by the law firm of Mesh, Clark, and Rothschild that Pima County waive a conflict of interest to allow the firm to represent Primavera Foundation, Inc. with respect to filing a claim and pursuing litigation against the county and its assessor and treasurer regarding a property tax issue. The assessor and treasurer do not object to the waiver. As is the case with all requests for a waiver, this matter is completely within the discretion of the board.
Mr. Chairman,
Supervisor Branson.
I move to do the waiver.
Second.
Move to waive.
Motion and a second to approve the waiver. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, please signify by saying nay. Ayes have it. Council?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, the next item that we have, and the last one for today, is the Board of Supervisors sitting as the Flood Control District Board of Directors. Item A on the regular agenda the matter concerns Pima County Flood Control District versus Jeremy Perez et al., Pima County Superior Court case number C-2009-3554. This is an eminent domain case to acquire property located at 2221 South Mission Road for the Paseo de Iglesias project. The property owners also have a counterclaim against the district for trespass. Pima County Attorney's Office seeks discretion and authority to proceed as discussed in executive session.
So moved.
Second.
Motion and a second to take the county attorney's recommendation and proceed as discussed in the executive session. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, please signify by saying nay. Ayes have it. At this point, I want to take a point of personal privilege, just to welcome. I want to welcome a future elected official, Ben Huffman. Thank you. I hear you're sick from school today and you had to accompany your dad. Could you please just stand up and wave? Ray, do you have a point?
No, thank you. I also want to welcome young Mr. Huffman and say I look forward to serving with you someday if I can hold on that long. Secondly, I also... We would be so good together, fella.
He's got good instinct.
As I went over to meet him earlier, I really am a great fan of the family, and I'm glad you're here today. I also wanted to mention some other children of our community who are being appointed with a great day on this Wednesday, which is the 6th. That's tomorrow. It's National Signing Day. And signing day activities scheduled for tomorrow include Mountain View, which is at 7:30 a.m., Ironwood Ridge at 8:15, 10 a.m., Tucson High, and 2:45, South Point Catholic High School. There's dozens of locals that are getting the chance to go to Division I colleges based on their athletic and scholastic abilities, and I'm sure they'll all be hopefully all-American in both categories, academic as well as sports. And I want to congratulate the local colleges that have picked up some of these young men and women. That's the University of Arizona, Pima Community College in Eastern Arizona. I myself would be at the 2:45 ceremony at South Point, since my son is signing at SMU on tomorrow. I just wanted to make sure that if you run into me by the end of the week, everything you want, I'll wish. It's going to be a positive. I'll be in the best mood ever. And thank you very much.
Thanks, Supervisor Carroll. I'm going to go ahead and move out of order to the addendum agenda. Item 3B2, loose social services. Supervisor Elias?
Mr. Chairman, I'll go ahead and move the item.
Motion and a second to approve item 3B2. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, please signify by saying nay. Motion carries. We'll move back to the regular order of business. Board of Supervisors sitting as other boards, Flood Control District Board. Item B, Riparian Habitat Mitigation Plan. Motion and a second to approve the item. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, please signify by saying nay. Ayes have it. Stadium District Board contract.
Mr. Chairman?
Supervisor Elias.
I'm going to move the item, but I did want to make special mention of our stadium district staff. You know, a couple weeks ago, we had that international game with the Danish national team and the Canadian national team. Was a terrible day, preceded with bad weather and rain for the 3 days before it. The sun broke at game time. We had 3,000 anxious fans who were there and a staff that performed excellent. And sometimes you have to push your best foot forward in a difficult situation, and that's exactly what our stadium district staff did. And I was very proud of their work that day and the fact that they hung in there and they provided a quality event that was televised throughout the world, I might add. Even if not here in Tucson, it was internationally seen and did a great job. I just want to thank them. Move the item.
Second.
There's a motion and a second, and thank you, Supervisor Elias. And indeed, I believe Supervisor Miller, myself, and Mr. Huckleberry were also there, and you're absolutely right.
It was a great event.
All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, please signify by saying nay. Ayes have it. Zoning Enforcement Board of Appeals, appeal of a hearing officer's decision.
Mr. Chairman.
Supervisor Carroll.
Mr. Chairman, I talked to staff just moments ago. It seems that Mr. Wang and his consultants are right on target to be ready to have this issue closed in 2 meetings from now. Is that correct? So if we could postpone this item one last time for 2 weeks from today. February 19th is exactly the date we decided. So thank you so much for your assistance, and please call the office if there's any details that arise that I need to hear about. But I will make that in the form of a motion. Thanks, Supervisor Bronson.
There's a motion and a second to continue the item to the Board of Supervisors meeting of February 19th.
That's correct.
Any discussion? Hearing none. Hearing none. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, please signify by saying nay. Ayes have it. Board of Supervisors sitting in regular session consent calendar. We don't have any cards. Is there anyone here who would like to address the board on a consent calendar item only? Seeing none,
Chairman?
Supervisor Elias.
Seeing no one come forward to address us on any of the items on consent, and we've made no changes to consent, I'll move consent in its entirety.
Second.
Motion and a second to approve consent in its entirety. Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, please signify by saying nay. Ayes have it. Moving on to item 6A.
Mr. Chairman, I'll move the item. I want to hold 6B at this
Okay.
point.
Motion and a second to approve item number 6A. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, please signify by saying nay. Ayes have it. Moving on to item 6B.
Mr. Chairman, if I could, I would like to ask Michael Loria to come up regarding item 6B1. And I think you have an announcement you'd like to make regarding that item.
And Michael, if you could please identify yourself for the record and fill out a green card once you're done.
Okay, sure. My name is Michael Lurie. I'm the Executive Director of the Children's Museum Tucson. Thank you for the opportunity to come and speak with you this morning about the Family Sci-Fest happening at the Children's Museum Tucson on February 16th. It is a family-oriented day of science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. It is part of the Arizona Sci-Tech Festival, which is being held statewide, and this is what activities are happening here in Tucson. And it happens from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m., and with underwriting support, we intend to be free admission for the community, and we'll have over 20 nonprofit partners in the community coming to offer their hands-on activities. The other thing that we're hoping to do, as we can all relate to so personally from our own tragedy a couple of years in Tucson, is about Newtown, Connecticut. And the Newtown, Connecticut community has been trying to establish a children's museum there for the last year. And following their recent tragedy, the impetus for having to bring that to fruition has gained a lot of momentum. And so other children's museums around the country are setting up opportunities to fundraise for Newtown, Connecticut by either offering $1 from admission or some other mechanism. And so what we're suggesting to do is, because we're hoping to have free admission on the Family Sci-Tech Festival, that we will collect donations from community members here in Tucson, and we will forward those on to Newtown, Connecticut, so that they can help in their fundraising efforts to create Everwonder, their children's museum in their community.
Thank you, Mike. Any questions?
Mr. Chairman.
Supervisor
Sir,
Carroll.
if they contact through your website to make those donations, has that been set up? I mean, How can people get more information if they're not going to be in person at your event to donate to that worthy
Well, we'll
cause?
put something on our website. They can go through PayPal, and they can just, in the notes, put that it's for Newtown, Connecticut. for
What's your
everyone,
website then, Michael?
which is childrensmuseumtucson.org.
Thank you very much, sir.
Any other questions? Michael, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, thank you. I would like to move at this time then items 6B1 and 2.
Motion and a second to approve item number 6B, 1 and 2. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, please signify by saying nay. Ayes have it. Moving on to item number 7.
Mr. Chairman, I'll move the item.
Motion and a second to approve item number 7. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, please signify by saying nay. Ayes have it. Moving on to items A, 8.
8A.
Correct. And we do have speakers on the on item B.
I'll move item 8A.
Okay. Motion and a second to approve item number 8A. And I would just like to add, by way of staff direction, this is an annual 12-month contract. Every time we renew, I'd like to go ahead and direct staff to do a review of whether or not it's still the most cost-effective option. So when we renew, we have that information in front of us.
Very good, thank you.
All those in favor, please.
Don't we have speakers on this item?
No, B.
It says 8B. Did you mean 8A?
Oh, you're moving
Okay.
8B?
Oh, yes.
8B is just a report that we have to approve.
I'm-
8A is what I believe you were speaking about, Mr. Chairman. I don't want to put words in your mouth. I apologize.
The corner says 8B, but the tag says 8A. I'm sorry. I apologize. We do have one speaker.
Sorry.
No, one. Sorry, Maya. It isn't. It's my eyesight. Please identify yourself for the record, and you have 3 minutes.
I'm Maya Castillo, President, SEIU Arizona, Local 48. Mr. Chairman, members of the board, Mr. Huckleberry, as you consider the contract with Tucson Electric Power, which relies the county solely on electricity and running the Inaro treatment plant, I encourage you to keep the door open for other options, such as returning to the power plant model, creating energy from captured methane that this allows us to use rather than burn a valuable natural resource. It also decreases the need for energy produced elsewhere, addressing our own sustainability and energy independence, as well as the many environmental issues that come along with power created by coal burning. I ask you to continuously evaluate the county's energy needs and explore other options that are environmentally sustainable, but more importantly, do not leave sewer ratepayers at the mercy of the electric company and ever-increasing rates, especially during a time of slow economic recovery. An enormous amount of money is being spent updating our wastewater treatment facilities, work that is sorely needed to continue our smart growth plan. Please ensure this money is spent wisely, correctly, and in a manner considerate to taxpayers. Thank you.
Any questions? Supervisor
Mr.
Miller.
Chairman, with your request that we have a periodic review, and also just to address the issue with the methane, that there is a proposal out there for using this methane. The county is in process of reviewing that. So I think in this case that we don't need to be concerned about the methane, in my opinion. So I think that issue's been settled.
Mr. Chairman,
Supervisor Elias. Now, let me ask this. Is this a question for Maya, or can I ask?
I'm sorry.
Thank you, Ms. Castillo.
You know, back in 2007 in May, we passed a sustainability initiative and resolution. And item 2J on that resolution, says adhering to the renewable energy standard adopted by the Arizona Corporation Commission, such that 15% of all county facilities' electrical energy consumption shall be generated from renewable resources by 2025. And then we go to the next item, item K, and we say maximizing renewable energy resources from the production of methane in county wastewater treatment and landfill operations and use them to offset non-renewable energy needs. So here we are with an item in front of us that does the exact opposite. So I don't know if our sustainability resolution has any meaning anymore, or if we're starting time all over again, that's okay too. We can do that. I understand that as a notion. But I haven't seen any numbers specific to building a new plant. I've heard people estimate that it's going to cost $30 to $50 million. But let's be honest. When we want to do something, we screw down the numbers so tight that we have very, very accurate estimates that we put together, whether it's for a courthouse for the justice courts, let's say, or whether it's for rebuilding the rest of Ina Road, or if it's for building a behavioral health hospital over there in back of Keno Hospital. We do a great job of nailing down the numbers. Here we are saying, well, we don't know, give or take $20 million, this is what it's going to cost, which really tells me that we're not interested in doing this. And I have a problem with that. I want to revisit it. I think the chairman makes a good point and says that we should come back and take a look at this in a year and make TEP aware that we're going to do that. But let's be serious then and really screw down the numbers on what this is going to cost, because a plant like this, the plant that's existing, and it's crude. It's a crude little plant. Has these engines on it that look like tractor engines or something. But it's been producing energy efficiently for more than 30 years. And it's done a great job at saving the taxpayers' money. And sure, this contract has a one-year provision where we're going to lock in that price with TEP. But they have 3 rate increases coming at us right now with the Arizona Corporation Commission. Do you really think that number's going to stay the same after a year? And here we are burning off that methane, which is, frankly, fairly dangerous, given the dry conditions that we have that surround us. I mean, I just think we haven't put a very serious effort into looking at how we could use methane to create energy at an efficient number and an efficient price that's going to make money for the ratepayers for the next 50 years. Instead, we're just kind of going, nah, we don't want to do that. It's not important to us. But yet, you know, 2007, well, I guess this was before Obama, so time began with Obama or something, didn't it? But anyways, you know, things don't matter here. That's what it sounds like to me. And frankly, I'm a bit aghast at that. And I don't understand our staff's motives or interest in not looking at this with a more serious eye, without getting down. Because this discussion and this item has been, been re-agendized 3 different times so we can have that discussion, and nothing has happened, and no new numbers have been produced, and nothing has come about to really show the taxpayers how we could do a better job of using a renewable resource like methane gas to create energy. None of that's happened. So this is not an effort of good faith. I just feel really, really, really troubled by that. I go ahead and go with the motion because there's nothing here today to prove anything different. But I'll say it does smell in here, and it doesn't smell as good as methane gas.
Mr. Chairman, I looked at that resolution and considered it carefully, but it's my understanding that there are alternatives being explored for the use of that methane gas in terms of an RFP that is out there. And if Mr. Jenkins in the back of the room wants to explain that a little further, that was my understanding. So we're not going to be just burning off the gas?
And let me ask Mr. Huckleberry to respond to that one.
Okay, thank you.
I would appreciate that better. I don't want to hear from
Mr. Chairman, Supervisor Miller, this particular item is in no way should be viewed as a backtracking from our sustainability commitments. In fact, in item J, I believe we have nearly completed the 15% renewable energy standard by all of the photo and the solar activities that we've been doing. In fact, at the 2 plants, we have 2 megawatt facilities already operating in those locations. The issue of methane is one that's a little more complicated because Our first major treatment facilities was at Roger Road, and it's now being replaced. We've interconnected the plant. Therefore, all the sludge is being transmitted by pipeline to the Ina Road facility, where we have a facility that provides the treatment necessary to treat that activity, and that's where the methane is captured, and now we will capture all of it. We have flared methane at the Roger Road facility for probably 30 years. We have captured part of the methane at the Ina Road facility and co-generated electricity with the power house that exists, but that only supplies about 50% of the energy needs at that facility even today.
How much is that worth?
The powerhouse was producing energy at the cost of 15 cents per kilowatt hour, and it was approximately what it cost was about $2.6 million. And so what we know is that the power purchase agreement we have with Tucson Electric Power is for 6 cents a kilowatt hour, or about 40% of the cost that we're paying today. The issue of methane and the sustainability ordinance, we have methane recapture systems at our landfills that are actively in place and producing methane energy for capture and reuse. We have also, as indicated, since about in the beginning of the ROMP, we've studied the whole issue of what to do with methane and how to basically capture it. And we have made a decision to capture it all, everything that can be captured at Ina Road. And you're correct, I've probably given you way too much information, because after the last meeting where we continued this item, I sent you some 3-ring binders that talked about the RFPs and their drafts that were out for public review and comment. And it provides a variety of mechanisms associated with the recapture of the methane, to either recapture it, clean it, and put it into the pipelines for distribution as an alternative energy source for natural gas, or to capture it and put it in compressed natural gas such that we can use it to fuel the significant portion of the vehicle fleet, particularly all that in the Northwest. So I think what we have is just this kind of gap in time that you can't instantly turn one facility on and operate another. We will have a time period between now and when we begin to completely use all of our methane that's available, but it's not in the too distant future. So I think that meets the terms and conditions of our sustainability ordinance.
Well, I would agree with you, Chuck, but you know, I just haven't seen a real serious effort at this thing this time. I would like to see a more serious effort made. I would like to see us nail down those numbers in a meaningful way, not with binders of the information that you sent. I understand that, and I understand the RFP that's out, and I know there's lots of other alternatives for methane use. But honestly, there's a huge number of wastewater companies, mostly government-owned, that are using their methane to create energy all across this country. Brand new facilities are being opened because it is the smart way to use it. And I hear you right now saying that you understand that might be the case, and that you can't just switch off from one to another. I understand that, Chuck. This is a very complicated thing, and there's a lot of dollars behind it. The payoff isn't going to come to our ratepayers until way on down the way. But I'm here for the long count. I may not make it to the promised land. But, you know, my family's been here like 7 generations, so we've been building sewage plants since we first came here to Tucson and paying for them. And we intend to keep on doing that because we're good, productive citizens that are proud of this county. But I would like to see a more honest, forthright effort made by our administrative folks to make sure that we have a realistic proposal that we can look at next year when this item comes up again. Because I think we owe it to the ratepayers, and someone should be sticking up for them today. And someone should be sticking up for the notion of renewable energy. Somebody should be standing up for making sure that we have a productive way to use methane gas, which has been a problem in many communities and has been a problem in our community and has created great problems right here along Calle Bonita, right here in District 5, as well as Silverbell Golf Course, which is in District 3, right on the edge of District 5 as well. These are places that have been decimated by methane gas that we're still trying to work with dealing with the effects of methane from landfills in the past. So I'm just amazed that we didn't put a better effort together, but I think there's still time to do that. I'm just raising a stink because I want to see that we make that effort in the future because I think it's the right thing to do. And we can split hairs about this resolution, Mr. Huckleberry, if we want. That's fine. But I'd like to see us adhere to the spirit of it more than just the absolute technical language of it. Because I think the spirit of item K, 2K I should say, in that initiative, I want to make sure I'm saying the right one. Yeah, it's 2K. It's pretty clear. The spirit of that is very clear. And it's specific to methane and specific to wastewater. That's why I say that. Enough of us think from Richard for today. It's okay.
Other discussion? All right, hearing none, the motion before us is on the approval of item 8A with the staff direction that an annual review be done to determine whether or not this is indeed the most effective way of producing power for the plant. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 All opposed, please signify by saying nay. Ayes have it. Moving on to item 8B.
Mr. Chairman, I'll move the item. Do you have a speaker?
I have a speaker.
Okay.
Let me go ahead and, if you'll withdraw the motion, I'll go ahead and hear the speaker first.
Okay, I withdraw.
I'm going to call on Mr. Steve Huffman, or should I say Steve and Ben Huffman. Please identify yourself for the record, and you have 3 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. My name is Steve Huffman, and I'm here today representing the Tucson Association of Realtors. And I just want to say, I realize this is just a report that you're authorizing that'll move forward with potentially an ordinance for this. And we have absolutely no problem. In fact, we think most of what has been done with the wastewater fees has been very positive for the industry, for our community. But we have, as we were looking at some of these recommendations, we had just a couple technical issues that I just wanted to talk about, just to make sure that they're at least in the thought process as you guys and your staff move forward with this. And it really came about, we saw some language in the recommendations that was trying to deal with, how do you deal with, say, a property that was developed 20 years ago, there's no longer an existing meter, are you going to have to pay for a new sewer hookup? There's language in this that tries to deal with that where they say, if you've already got an existing meter and there's been an active connection for 5 consecutive years in the last 10 years, you basically won't have to come in and pay for a new sewer hookup. We were just a little bit concerned. We don't think there's a whole huge group of these people out there, but we don't want to end up with a situation where, because of what we've seen with foreclosures and vacant houses, we didn't want, because of this language, ending up with an ordinance that basically says, okay, you have an existing meter, but because of these time constraints that we put on you, we're going to not consider that meter that's already in place to be an active meter and force you to have to pay basically $4,500 for a new sewer hookup. So we just want to make sure when you're looking at that language. The second thing we wanted to clarify is if we do go down this road where we're going to have situations where people do have existing meters that somehow, because of a definition in this, require you to pay a new sewer hookup fee, then we need to work directly with you guys to figure out some system that's not going to make y'all pull your hair out, because what we'd have to recommend to all of our members is if you take a listing of any vacant house and you're not sure at all whether that existing meter qualifies as an existing meter or not, we're going to have some simple way to get a hold of the appropriate person at the county and verify that that is in fact an active meter, because I couldn't imagine anything worse than somebody buying a house
And then just
and
one
finding
more.
out that they now have a $4,500 bill, and the first person they're going to come to is the realtor, and we're going to have lawsuits, and we certainly don't want to do that. So whatever definitions you have in this, we need to make sure that there are practical solutions to kind of these technical problems. And with that, we are supportive by and large of the changes you're making. And we've had good communication with your staff prior to this meeting on this issue, and certainly look to try to resolve these as best as possible for everybody.
Any questions for Mr. Huffman? Hearing none, thank you. And thank you for bringing Ben. You might get a yes vote. All right, Supervisor
I'm
Johnson.
voting for you, Steve. Sorry.
I'll move the item with the caveat that the two items that Mr. Huffman just brought to our attention be dealt with as we move through the process.
Second.
Motion and a second to approve the item with the recommendation on the two items that Mr. Huffman brought to our attention. Ben Huffman, that is. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, please signify by saying nay. Ayes have it. Hearings, franchises, licenses, permits, liquor license, item 9, 10, 11, 12.
Mr. Chairman.
Go ahead, Chair. All right, I'll do it. I'm going to go ahead and move items 9, 10, 11, and 12, recognizing the clerk's note on item 9, and closing the public hearing, seeing no one come forward to speak to the board.
Second.
Motion and a second to close the public hearing and approve item 9 through 12, noting the clerk's note on item number 9. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, please signify by saying nay. Ayes have it. Moving on to item number 13.
Mr. Chairman, I have met with several members of the homeowners associations regarding this change, and I think with a couple of minor tweaks, I think they will agree. One of the things they were concerned about was the 7 vehicles being allowed in a neighborhood at a time. They would like to see that 2-car limit put back in place. And the other issue was the placing of a shade structure for horses in the corrals. I think if we add a provision that says that shade structure be placed as far away from the adjacent neighbor within the corral as possible, then I see that the majority of the people that I've spoken to will be fine with the way this motion reads if we add those 2 items. So I make a motion to approve with these.
I've got a couple speakers.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I'll call you as soon as we're done with the speakers.
Okay.
Okay? Let me call on Judith Meyer. Ms. Meyer, if you could please come up, identify yourself for the record, and you have 3 minutes.
My name is Judith Meyer. I reside at 3785 North Camino de Oeste. And good morning, Mr. Chair and members of the board. It's a delight to be before you again. I thank you for the opportunity, and I also thank you for your generally thoughtful and conscientious management of this county. I think you can take it as an expression of gratitude how many long-term incumbents we have on this board. I feel that gratitude, and for the management of the county as well. I reside on a private dirt road. Every year, I pay a large amount of money to maintain that road. Twice this past summer, our road was totally washed out by extraordinary precipitation. Scientists tell us we can expect more of the same. You could not have gotten an ambulance through either of those times. We have to bring in new material. We have to be on top of that road at all times. My household has required an ambulance and may in the future, obviously, or a fire truck. Maintaining that road is not the obligation of the county. It also should not be taken as a privilege of the county to increase the burden on my easement. Let me explain that. I own the land that my road passes across. It continues on for approximately 3/4 of a mile after passing over my land, my personal land, on an easement that was put on the record before there was a Prop 207. Even putting aside Prop 207 matters, let's talk about just fundamental fairness. The burden of my easement was for ingress and egress for residential purposes and for utilities, of course. When you decide that people can conduct businesses, maybe they have a limit of 7 clients, for example, for a bakery operation or a machine shop, there's no limit on how many trucks can come in for deliveries and pickups of manufactured goods. That easement is overburdened, and as a matter of fundamental fairness, I don't think the county should be permitting any such operation without notice to everyone who is maintaining that road. All the people who reside on a private road not maintained by the county should have notice and an opportunity to be heard, and the county should not permit that function, that business operation, unless 100% of the people maintaining that road are in agreement. You should allow a veto of 1 when you have a private dirt road of this kind, whether it's dirt or concrete. Any increase in use burdens the easement, right? There is a direct cost to my property and a direct impact in the material and the work. And our observation is that people who don't reside on dirt roads generally don't appreciate the need to limit speed to an extreme. You have to limit, am I over my time?
Yes.
I'm sorry. You have to limit speed to prevent kicking up more dust than necessary, to prevent washboarding, which is directly a function of speed. And people who don't live there, and especially delivery drivers who are on a schedule, often don't appreciate that and increase our costs. I thank you for your time.
Any questions for
Yeah,
Ms. Myers?
I do have a question.
Yes,
Ms-
ma'am.
Okay, I appreciate your comments because I too live on a dirt road.
Okay.
And you're right on target. But what is your desired outcome?
Specifically, I want notice to all the owners on the dirt road that's not maintained by the county, on any road that's not maintained by the county. There should be notice to all the owners, an opportunity to be heard, and no permit unless there's no objection. Understand, when you have provisions of a zoning code, they generally operate only when somebody gets obnoxious. I could tell you about multiple violations on my road right now, violations of the zoning code. I could care less. I'm not reporting my neighbors. I live and let live. It's when somebody really overburdens us. That's when you wind up bringing in zoning enforcement and saying, hey, you know what? You needed a permit for that, and the manner in which you're conducting it is causing this harm, this harm, this harm. You know, I regularly ask my neighbors if my dog's barking is bothering them. I have told a neighbor that a security light was shining directly into a window of my house and irritating us. He turned it off. We get along with each other, we're fine. We need a zoning code when people aren't being reasonable with one another. And therefore I'm asking that we all be given notice, an opportunity to be heard, and an opportunity to object, and our objection should stop the county from permitting something on our private easement that was not allowed before. Thank you.
Let me ask, let me ask staff, what prior, if we were to, there's some changes here. What does the current ordinance say without these suggested changes?
Mr. Chair, Supervisor Bronson, we had previously proposed a home occupation expansion through neighbor notice. But there was a lot of discussion about what was...
No, that's not my question. What does the current ordinance say?
There is no notice requirement in regards to the current
And what is
ordinance.
the limitation on vehicles?
There's no limitation on vehicles. It's a client limitation. So right now the code says you may have up to 5 clients in a given day, but no more than 2 at a time.
Okay.
So delivery trucks, there's no limitation. We had discussed in our meeting a 300-foot notice, a 1,000-foot notice. That doesn't do me any good. Six of the 13 houses on my private
The whole
road
length of the road.
are far more than 1,000 feet away from me.
Right.
Yeah,
Right, and I understand that in a lot of the Tucson Mountains, especially where there's SR zoning,
yes.
and there's a lot of residences along dirt roads, because I used to represent that area as well. I understand what you're saying, Judith. You understand, though, objections from neighbors ultimately would really only create a situation where it comes to the board for the board to make a decision.
Right.
So one soul or 10 souls who object to something may not be able to stop it from happening.
Okay,
Because in the course
understood.
of your conversation, you said something a little bit different. I just want to make sure we're real clear on that.
Okay, I
That we would
appreciate
give the
that.
board the option of making that decision themselves in a hearing.
Yes, and let me just point out, by the way, that but for the diligent, conscientious notice of Donna Heidinger,
Right?
we would not even have been aware that Development Services was proposing
Right.
this.
Right.
Unlike the city of Tucson,
Right.
there's no notice to neighborhood organizations
And,
in the
and
county.
I agree, and it really troubles me, but this is something that goes on, Judith,
Mhm.
is the notion of notification.
Right.
And who gets notified and who doesn't,
Right.
because everybody calculates it differently,
Yes,
okay?
yes.
So there's always these voids. And somebody coming here going, you guys left me out of the loop on this thing, and I can't blame them, they feel that way, they're probably right. I'm sure they're right. But I'm just saying, I wanted to get through with Judith on that, but okay, for staff then, if we made a change to this proposed ordinance from here that said we're gonna notify everybody who's on a private, non-maintained dirt road, what are the issues that arise from that, Chris? So that this board has an understanding, because it's not as quite as simple as that.
Mr.
Please.
Chairman, Supervisor Elias, thank you for the opportunity. Many issues we would have some concerns of. One is Proposition 207. If we were to introduce a new notice procedure, we may be then affecting somebody's right to then have open to home occupation, whereas before they couldn't. We have some concern there. I have a greater concern, though, of that notice requirement. Right now, if we have a number, we have a finite number, we can automate a notice. We could populate a map through a computer. We'll have a nice exhibit map. We'll produce then a mailing list. It is a very discrete amount of people who will receive notice. If we're going to get into something that requires some type of subjective review, trying to figure out who has access off of a dirt road, who may have legal access, may not be the same as physical access. Someone who has physical access may not even have legal access. When we get into the areas with dirt roads, some of them, could be feeding
So if we
hundreds of
confined
homes.
it to legal access, would that make it clear for
It
you?
would still be difficult. There's still some type of subjective review that would occur. And I'll tell you, procedurally, when we're challenged legally, notice is a typical thing people look at. Right now, if we're working with numbers, again, the computer prints out an exhibit map, we print out our envelopes, that's our notice. If we're getting into anything that requires review, maybe looking at aerial photography, how current it is to determine who has legal access. A lot of the dirt roads, too, are private ingress-egress easements that we aren't even privy to the documentation of who may have a right to that road. So even if we were to try and look at legal access, we would have to do a very substantial, almost title search in a lot of the properties in the area to figure out who truly has legal access to this road. So I would strongly recommend we do not take on that approach for notice. And again, I want to reiterate, we had previously proposed an expansion for home occupations that would have triggered a notice. It being a new procedure, I think we would have been probably okay with Proposition 207. We've since, due to the neighbor concern, pulled that out altogether. We're not recommending that at all. And then we, in an effort not then to debate notice. 300 feet wasn't adequate, 1,000 feet wasn't adequate, we pulled it altogether.
So we have no notice
We
requirements
have
at all.
no built-in, the idea was to provide an easier avenue for an applicant to expand some of the controls of a home occupation without having to pay the $1,000+ go before a board of adjustment, and argue a hardship. The idea was based on if you mail your neighbor's notice and they don't care and what you're doing still met the rules of a home occupation, you could have your expansion. That was the expanded idea that we've since pulled out.
Sure, I understand that.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to ask Chris a question. If the previous methodology was to go before the Board of Adjustment to get permission to use home use, it seems to me that that would resolve the problems if we went back to that methodology. And you're saying the fee is onerous, maybe we reduce the fee if that's something we could explore. I don't think $1,000 is a lot of money to somebody that wants to do a home business. And in this way, all citizens in the county would be treated equally, whether you're on a dirt road, a paved road. It would give everyone notice and the opportunity to come and testify. So that's what I'm missing, is why we're eliminating this process to begin with.
Sure. Mr. Chairman, Supervisor Miller, if you go through a home occupation and you meet all the requirements, you never had to go to the Board of Adjustment. If you wanted to exceed the limits of the code, say you wanted to have 6 clients in a given day, then you would have to go before the Board of Adjustment for a variance.
Well, that's what I think we're talking about here, is the increased traffic on roads with more than the original number of clients that were allowed.
Yes, Supervisor Miller, we are now proposing to just increase the amount of client visits in a given day. Regardless, if approved, then they wouldn't, and they still met then the number of 7, they would not be required to go before the Board of Adjustment. Certainly the board could not approve any of the changes to the home occupation, and we wouldn't have any, but staff is recommending that we do look at an expansion. We have met with many of the neighborhood groups, made a lot of concessions and compromises, and we think we have a product before the board that is approvable and enforceable.
If I may briefly respond.
Please, Judith, please do.
Thank you. Number one, it strains credibility, if you think about it, to say the county doesn't know where its maintained roads end. If somebody seeks a permit that's not on a county-maintained road, I don't think there's an administrative difficulty in figuring that out. You look at a map of your roads and you know whether or not that property's on it.
Yeah, that's probably more true in places like where you live, Judith, but you know, we're dealing with the entirety of the county, and there are places where there have been personal easements allowed along roads that we have no idea of.
Right.
No, but we know
Regardless
what
of
the county maintained roads are.
Yes, that's
And
true.
that, so by elimination, the other roads are not county maintained. So it seems to me very simple.
And also the county knows who
that's what he's
owns
gonna argue.
the land. So, you know, we don't need 300 foot or 1,000 foot as the only way to have administrative ease. If you say someone's seeking a permit for something that's not on a county road, you know you're talking about private land. Notice doesn't, this is my second point, notice to the owners does not decrease anyone's property value.
Well,
so I don't
know how it even is a Prop 207, how
It's
notice
not.
is a Prop 207 issue.
But I'll tell you what is a Prop 207 issue. I don't have to tell the members of this board that it costs more money to maintain a road the more traffic is on it. You increase the cost of me maintaining my road.
You've got a
when you
Prop
increase the
207
traffic.
issue.
There you are. You're creating one. Notice doesn't create one. Allowing more trucks on our private roads by having businesses does. And as far as being treated equally, I'm not seeking all of us being treated equally. Just as in a school, you don't ask that blind children be given the same textbooks. I'm not asking the county to maintain my road. I pay the same taxes, and I live on a road I have to maintain. I'm not asking to be treated equally. I'm asking to be given notice if the county seeks to permit a business on my private road.
That was my
Notice.
point, was
Yes,
that
thank
we
you.
give everyone notice, not,
Right.
you know, any special treatment to people.
Right.
But I just think if we give notice to one group of taxpayers, I think we should be giving notice to everyone. I think that's the fair solution.
Let me ask this. I don't think we're going to get this resolved today. It's clear to me. And to Donna also, we have a current code that addresses this issue. If we were to remove this item from the list of code amendments today and then direct staff to work with neighborhoods to bring something new before us, would you be okay with leaving the existing ordinance in place without changing it today till we can work through some of the issues that have been raised that do not seem to have been resolved? Is that a yes? Okay.
I think that's a smart move, Supervisor Bronson, and I would support that so that this discussion goes on, because to say that, you know, keeping intact the existing code and going to the Board of Adjustments and spending that money, I think it's rather cavalier to dismiss that and say, well, you should have $1,000 in your pocket to give the county. The other thing that I'm very afraid of is ultimately non-compliance.
Yeah.
People just going ahead and doing their businesses in their homes without telling anybody because of the cost associated with that. And so I think this is really forward thinking, because this is not going to slow down. You know, and I always find it funny, no, not funny, but it's odd to use the words home occupation, because in most of District 5 that has a very different meaning, you know, but working out of the home is increasing, you know, exponentially. And so we do have to deal with that. So it's going to continue to be a problem. The right thing is to work with what we have today, but also start working on another code, text amendment, so we can deal with this issue of notification in a way that's fair and legal to everybody. I think that's really good, Sharon.
Okay. And then one other item. I think the other Supervisor Miller, some of the neighborhood associations within District 1 had concerns about the shade structures within corrals. Judith, wait. Ms. Meyer, did TMA also have addressed the issue of shade structures, or was there any?
No.
No. Okay. All right. Thank you. That's what I needed to know. All right.
All right. I do have a number of more speakers here, so let me go in the order that I've gotten the cards. Diana Heidinger, please come up to the mic. Oh, you don't think? Okay, she doesn't wish to speak at this time.
Thank you, Don.
Rita Hall. Please identify yourself for the record, and you have 3 minutes.
Thank you. My name is Rita Hall, and I am chairperson of the Northwest Community Coalition. Most of what I would have said has been covered, and I appreciate that, and I'd certainly be on board for continuance and further discussion of this issue. I do want to thank you all for your diligence in addressing all of these issues on behalf of our neighborhood. And we do appreciate that this is already the third reiteration of this text amendment. Changes have been made with input from various neighborhood associations. However, I do want to remind you the purpose of the code is to set standards which protect the primary zoning. In this case, when we address the issue of home occupation, residential is the primary use. Any secondary use must remain subordinate to and not negatively impact the primary use. Specifically, increasing the total number of clients allowed per day from 5 to 7 is not a major issue. However, in doing so, you've removed the wording of maximum of 2 clients at a time. This is an issue. You now have the potential for 7 additional cars seeking parking at one time within a residential neighborhood, not a commercial parking lot. This impacts everyone in the entire neighborhood. Likewise, if you allow any manner of accessory building with no design standards, no caveat of reasonably matching the main building, you are now negatively impacting the entire neighborhood. You are devaluing properties for everyone. Lastly is the issue of notification. We've briefly spoken about that already. In CR1, in my neighborhood, for example, every home is a full acre or more, up to 3 acres, and we're all CR1. A 300-foot notification is obviously not sufficient. All notification has been taken out of this. I object to that. If we went to a 1,000-foot notification, we get at least a few homes notified with an opportunity to comment. These issues impact the entire neighborhood, and this leads directly to why you needed to continue this item twice already, because there was not sufficient notification. It was under the radar. We found out about it 2 days before it was coming to a vote and responded as we would have much earlier had we known. So we urge you to indeed continue the discussion on this. Let's rework it. Let's make it so that it does not negatively impact us and still accomplishes the primary goal you had in mind in bringing this forward, which was to allow home occupations, allow a better economic situation for a family. We don't object to that part of it. We also asked you to please further address the issue of design standards for accessory buildings and the issue of notification area in the very near future as separate agenda items. These are very important issues for us. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Hall. Any questions for Ms. Hall? Thank you. I'm going to ask Dr. Ivy Schwartz to please come up, identify yourself for the record, and you have 3 minutes.
Good morning. I'm Ivy Schwartz, 3211 West Westwood Place in Tucson, President of Tucson Mountains Association. Mr. Chair, members of the board, staff, thank you very much for allowing us this opportunity to speak, all of us. Today, a lot of the issues have already been discussed in detail this morning. I don't want to repeat those. Just suffice to say that I think the issues around notification are the most important. Transparency is exceedingly important, I think, in government. And I hope that there'll be a way to take a look at the sort of larger issues of zoning and what can and cannot be done in a residential area in order to incorporate the maximum notification possible. I don't live on a dirt road, but I can certainly imagine what that's like to have a lot of traffic going through there all the time. So I think that's an important point. And in addition, just my own personal reflection, I have to agree with something that Supervisor Elias said a little while ago. As we move forward in what's going on the economic plane in our country and certainly here as well, I think there are going to be more and more people doing all kinds of small businesses in their homes. And that's not necessarily a bad thing. I think that actually is probably a very good thing for lots of reasons. And in order to figure out a way to make that possible for people to do so they can support themselves adequately, I think that's an important thing for government to think about. And there are people in the world who don't necessarily have the funds to be able to pay $1,000 or more to interact with the government to be able to move forward on what the plans are they might have for their own business. So I think I think it would be good to be sensitive to that and think about, in a broader sense, ways that we can empower people to be able to be independent and self-sufficient in that way in terms of supporting themselves. And a lot of times that will mean figuring out what they can do out of their home. So I would support that as well, personally. Thanks so much.
Any questions? Thank you, Evie. All right, I don't have any more speakers. What's the direction?
Mr. Chairman, I would move that we continue this for. Okay. I would move that we pass all of the other items on here with the horse corral structures, that's part of it, being moved to the furthest possible point away from the neighboring property, if we could do that. And I move all other items be approved except for the home occupation.
Which is section. In closed public hearing, and that's remove section 18.09.030 from the zoning code text amendment ordinance. But yeah, go ahead.
Mr. Chairman, supervisors, there is a provision within our proposal for the home occupation, which is the alignment for the home-baked and confectionery good component. Is the intent of the board also not to include that change and to continue that? Or?
Yeah, I believe it is.
Yes.
Why don't we just leave it at
I feel
home
kind of uncomfortable here. I don't know what we're voting on. Could we restate the motion?
We're
so that
voting
it's
on
clear to
everything.
everybody? I mean,
Okay. Okay.
I feel slightly uncomfortable here because I'm not sure.
We're moving to approve CO8 12-07, item 13, everything except for section 18.09-030, which is the home occupation, to expand home occupations.
And any related sections.
And yes, in any related sections to that
You
item.
also mentioned the horse corral being furthest away from the neighboring property.
That's correct. We
Right.
would like to move that be approved with a horse structure placed within the corral at the furthest distance from the neighboring property within that corral.
That would allow for the shade structure to be functional.
Correct. It would allow for the shade structure to be functional within the corral, but move it to the furthest distance from the neighboring property.
What do we mean by functional? I mean, that seems
That
somewhat
it-
subjective.
Well, it's so that the
I'm-
shade, it works.
Okay.
This-
As long as that goes on the
provides shade.
record there, Sharon, because that makes it less subjective to everybody. If we're
Hang
just-
on, let me
Yeah,
ask Chris
we're
whether or
in-
not that makes sense.
We're in
Chris?
murky water again here.
Mr. Chairman, we have, we think some alternative language that
Okay.
may get to the same outcome.
Why
and
don't you
that-
read that into the record, Chris?
Very
Maybe
good.
we can use it.
So at the end of that sentence, we would strike the period, add a comma, and add, provided that the shade structure be located as far as possible within the corral from the neighboring property.
Okay.
I'm
Okay.
good with that.
There we go. That's much clearer.
All right.
Okay, so we're leaving the baking and confectionery stuff off here?
No, that would be the related.
Okay, ándale. Okay, good,
Okay.
good. I got it now.
All right, so let me
Sorry
read
I'm so
let
dense
me
this
read the
morning.
motion, and please tell me if I'm right. We're closing the public hearing.
Pretty left to me.
We're closing the public hearing, approving item number 13, CO 8-12-07, with the language as stated on the record by Chris, related to horse corral shade structures, as well as excluding any reference to home occupation, including 18.09.030. So it gives you a little flexibility to make sure any reference, including the baking and confectionery, is taken out, and to postpone it 90 days?
Well, no, we'll do a separate motion on that.
Okay. So we'll approve everything but those items. Is that clear?
That's
Very
clear.
clear. Thank you, Mr.
All right.
Chairman.
All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, please signify by saying nay. Ayes have it.
Mr. Chairman, I would then, since we have eliminated section 18.09.030, I would direct staff to work with neighborhood associations and community associations to redraft redraft that particular section to expand home occupations, and then to bring that back if they have something viable within 90 days. And then, that would be a direction to staff to work with neighborhood associations to develop an acceptable expansion of the home occupation ordinance, section 18.09.030.
Second.
Mr. Chairman.
Chris.
Yes. I assume Supervisor Bronson that will also include a referral back to the Planning and Zoning Commission if necessary.
If necessary, certainly.
That's a substantial change, yeah. We expect that. Thank you, Chris.
Thank you, Chris. Okay, so the motion before us is directing staff on the home occupancy, which is obviously as stated 18.09.030, and all related home occupancy portions of this ordinance. That it be redrafted in conjunction with the stakeholders of the community associations and neighborhood associations, and if necessary, taken back to the Planning and Zoning Commission and to return to this board within 90 days. All right, any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, please signify by saying nay.
It's not over yet.
Ayes have it.
No, it's not. I got one more, and this is a question for Chris. On the home bakery part of the home occupation piece, why don't you bring that back separately? No one has objection to that, but rather than confuse the issue today, I think it would be cleaner if you want to bring that particular, very narrow piece back to us at the next available board meeting, provided there's proper notice. and your reaction.
Mr. Chair, Supervisor Bronson, it would probably be the cleanest version would be to bring it back as a new text amendment. We'd have to first bring it back then to the Planning and Zoning Commission, and then to the Board of Supervisors.
Okay.
As a standalone, very
Very
small text amendment, yeah.
And that was by way of staff direction.
And Mr. Chair, if I may add to it, there was a lot of discussion about notice, and we're talking about notice for two things. One, the notice of increasing the potential of impact on your neighbors. But we're also talking about notice of neighborhood associations not even receiving word of a proposed zoning code change. And I just want to get on the record a couple of things that we do and something that we offer in development services. One is we do have a neighborhood and homeowner association database that we maintain and we're fairly protective of to protect the privacy of the homeowners on that registry. But what we do is every time there's a Planning and Zoning Commission meeting that then includes every zoning code text amendment, we email everybody in that list, and we're talking hundreds of neighborhood associations, the Planning and Zoning agenda. The agendas these days are not 5 pages deep anymore. So we are emailing and reaching out to every neighborhood association in our directory, and it's very extensive. And I would like to add that it's only as good as the records indicate. So if there's been a change with an officer, and we're emailing to an old officer, we need to hear back to make the change. That's one thing we do. Another thing we do is we do provide a service. It's currently $12 a year, and for that year we will provide direct paper notice for any zoning code text amendment as well. Currently we have nobody on a registry for that service, but it is available. So for $12 we'll provide any neighborhood or any individual notice of any zoning code text amendment for $12 a fiscal year.
Okay, thank you.
Do you have a link on your website where people can sign up for that and pay with a credit card? Or do they have to come down to Development Services and write a check?
For the $12.
What we do is we currently will annually publish in the newspaper a notice that we offer the service, and then they could pay us. We don't currently have internet link to do it, but we could certainly work with anyone over the phone or even through email and take credit card over the phone. So easy payment.
Thank you.
We should put that a link on your webpage. You should notice that on your webpage so that neighborhood associations can sign up if they want. Because nobody's going to read the paper. Hardly anybody reads the paper. Sorry. It's just they don't read it.
All right, are we done the direction? Okay, we'll go ahead and move on to the addendum agenda. Item number 2, Natural Resources, Parks and Recreation Amendment to the Pima Regional Trail System Master Plan, resolution number 2013-6. I do have one speaker card. Is there a staff report, or should we go just to the speaker?
Speaker.
Okay. I'm going to ask David Godleski to please come up, identify yourself for the record, and you have 3 minutes.
Good morning, David Godleski, Southern Arizona Home Builders Association, 2840 North Country Club, Tucson, Arizona. Mr. Chairman, members of the board, thank you for the opportunity to speak to you. While on the surface, amending or modifying the trails requirements may seem only like a good thing, I think it's important in the decision-making context to consider the costs and impacts for private landowners as well as the development community. That didn't occur in this instance. The first that we learned of this proposed modification was yesterday when reading the staff agenda. At this point in time, we are unsupportive of the potential of the increase in certain path requirements. In transparency, we haven't had an opportunity to do the type of due diligence to determine the specific impact of our members, so having more time wouldn't necessarily bring us closer to supporting this item. We simply ask that we're included in the stakeholder process very early in these types of proposals, and that will allow us to have an opportunity to vet these issues with our members and determine what the cost impacts and the implications may be for future proposals. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Godleski.
So, David, you're saying you don't want more time. You don't want to talk about it.
Oh, yeah, he just said he
Is that what
did.
you're saying? I'm trying to discern.
Mr. Chairman, Supervisor Elias, I just wanted to be clear in that if there was going to be, if our additional time ended up resulting in determining that there were additional cost impacts, we would still be opposed. And so I wanted to make sure that you had that in the context of your decision making.
I think he was just saying that he still may not support it even if we allow additional time.
Exactly.
Mr. Godleski, how much time would you need in terms of review?
Well, typically, I would like to have a couple weeks to be able to look at this.
30 days?
30 days would be fair.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman,
let me ask Mr. Huckabee. I think he's got a response to this, but I'm not real sure. And then, okay, Mr. Huckabee.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, as I understood the objection is that it's going to be an objection no matter what if we increase the cost. What the major impact and the major modification is widening the pathway from 12 feet to 16, which we find to be functional and safe. The 12-foot with high public use gets basically a situation where we have walkers, joggers, bikers, and dog walkers all converging on one location, and therefore I think we've adopted, and even we are building our own facilities at 16 feet in width, and so I think that's the major change. And so if the Southern Arizona home builder is going to be opposed to it because of cost, then I don't know what a continuance is going to do.
Mr. Huckleberry just answered my questions. Thank you.
Thank you.
What's the will of the board?
Honestly, I'd go ahead and move the item right now.
Second,
Up
I
to
mean,
me.
I think David,
But-
I think you probably are going to oppose it regardless, so.
Right, that's the sense that I have. Is it something that's time sensitive or that we need to get into a big argument about? No. Well, let's give them the 30 days. They come back and say no, and then we make our decision.
Okay.
Just to show that our heart is in the
So
right place.
your motion is to continue for 30 days?
Yeah.
Second.
Motion and a second to continue item number 2 on the addendum agenda for 30 days. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, please signify by saying nay. Ayes have it. Moving on to item number 3A.
Mr.
B1,
Chairman?
C, and D.
I'll go ahead and move the remainder of the addendum with the exception of item 4E.
Second.
Motion and a second to approve the remainder of the addendum agenda with the exception of item 4E. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, please signify by saying nay. Ayes have it. Moving on to item 4E. What's the will of the board? Supervisor Miller.
Mr. Chairman, I move for the appointment of Joe Higgins. He's an individual who has contributed a lot to the community and has served on many boards and has been very active in community boards and relations, and that is the reason that I nominated him for this position, because of his contacts in the community, not only here but in other areas, and also his ability to work beyond party lines. I'm sorry. Okay. Oh, okay. I wanted to make sure that I went on the record and said that is the reason that I nominated him for this position, because of his skills and abilities at making sure that things get done. Thank you.
Is there a second to that motion?
I'd motion for the sake of discussion, sir.
Second, for sake of discussion, is there discussion? Hearing none, this motion is on the approval of item 4E on the addendum agenda. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, please signify by saying no.
No.
No. Any abstentions? Motion fails. Now we're to the call to the public. We do have one speaker card. Donna Heidinger, please come up, identify yourself for the record, and we have 3 minutes.
Good morning. My name is Donna Heidinger. I reside at 7362 North Camino de Maximilian in Tucson, 85704. One of the unintended consequences of working on the home occupation text revision was learning about the unintended consequences associated with Proposition 207.
Yes.
And I would like to ask you, in particular, my association is composed of CR1 zoning, and the concern is the relaxed regulation, potential relaxed regulation in that regard. We have the adaptive reuse ordinance and the guest house ordinance expansion, which we have recently had. And it appears that Prop 207 protects one property, and at the same time, it can put surrounding properties at risk, and they have no recourse. I would like to ask you that you keep the strong regulations in place that we have for CR1 and be mindful of relaxation that would allow for exploitation, putting other neighbors at risk. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else who would like to address the board or call to the public? Hearing none, this meeting stands adjourned.